To explain the statement in the Zohar, Rabbi Yehuda says, in explaining why no man may leave over of the manna for the next day, so he says in the Zohar that every day is blessed from Shabbos. And every day, therefore, gives over the blessing that it receives from Shabbos. And hence, that's what the Zohar says, that's the reason why Moishe Rabbeinu says nothing should be left over from one day to the other, because one day should not give or even lend to its fellow. It's a rather puzzling statement. What's difficult to understand is, first and foremost, because all the days get from Shabbos, therefore every day stands alone, and one day cannot give or lend to the other. As we mentioned yesterday, you would have thought the opposite. Rooted in holiness, in Shabbos, there would be unity and interconnectiveness, not each day standing on its own. So this is what he's explaining now. Now, to understand all of this, and the other questions raised at the beginning of the Maimer, so he explains that what is the man? So the man is rooted where? In what level? In Pnimius HaTainig. Gimel Reishin the Atik, the highest, innermost level of Atik. Atik, as we explained, is where Hashem's delight is manifested. It's an essential level. We explained delight, Tainug, means that I am delighting in something. All the other manifestations of the Nefesh, Rotzen, down, are all agenda. You want something for something. But Tainug is the objective. The objective is Shabbos. That's the objective. And Shabbos is a day of delight, a day of being, as opposed to the 6 days of the week, which is all about performance. That's why the 6 days are masculine and Shabbos is feminine, because men define themselves by and therefore thrive on performance, whatever that might be, whether in the financially, the sports field, academically, even religiously. And even when it comes to relationships, that's his till he learns otherwise, his role and experience, it's about performance. And for the female, it's about being. She defines, the mother defines if you are or are not Jewish. And what does the father contribute? Performance. What tribe? How are you going to behave? Vocation. Being is feminine, performing is doing. In the creation of the child, he projects, he performs, she takes inwardly and gives of herself for 9 months, sharing her very being with the child. That's Shabbos. That's why Shabbos is a day of Tainug, and that's why Shabbos is the feminine day of the week, because that's uniquely feminine property. Women share of themselves, men, that's how they bond. Men bond by sharing activities like fishing. So the man is rooted in the level of Hashem's Tainug. Hashem's Tainug. As we explained yesterday, what does that mean in simple language? Is God's chosen desire or delight to have a relationship with us. That's what he craves. That's what nisava means. I know it's commonly translated as God desires, but it's a weak translation. Nisava really means God craves, and we explained many times, how could God possibly crave? That makes him fundamentally finite and vulnerable. Well, the answer is he chose to be. And once he chose to be, he is. So he chose, it's the ultimate free choice. as we've explained many times, only the Eibishter can truly, freely chooses. Free means of all values and considerations, because there are none for God. He's utterly beyond them. And our choice, our free choice, is another matter altogether. So all to say, what did Eibishter choose? Nis'ava Kadosh Baruch Hu, he chose to have a craving. He chose to have a desire, a need. And what is that? To share himself with us. That's what Shabbos is. That's Moishe Mashiach. That's the whole Tachlis. And all of this is embodied in the manna. The physical manna, lemata, down here, that the Jews ate, is rooted in Pnimius HaTainug. It's all Shabbos. That's why this explains the anomaly that VaYarivecha Hashem blessed the seventh day with what exactly? One of the things, says the Gemara, is man, because that's what the seventh day is. It's a day of delight, and that's what the manna is. But it doesn't fall on Shabbos. So it falls during the 7 days. How could this possibly be? We explained without repeating this yesterday. The 7 days, that's all about creation and building and performance. It's the male thing. So the answer is that on Shabbos, the 6 midas and all of creation, Vaychula, Shamayim, V'Haaretz, are all incorporated and elevated within Hashem, within the divine. We're all brought in to his very self, and it's a taste of the great delight that Hashem will have permanently and forever when Mashiach comes. And every Shabbos is Me'ein Olam Haba. It's a foretaste of that truth. And Chassidus, which is revealed before Mashiach comes, is revealing this to us now in the Friday afternoon of history as we taste of the foods. Toyamer Chaim Zochu. So Chassidus revealed that the whole purpose of creation is Nisav HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God's chosen, God's decision to delight in us. So how is this? The question is, we just answered, how is Tainug conveyed in the 6 midas in Ishtalshalus, which is about building the world, performance? Answer, on this day, it's all elevated. That's what we're up to. On this day, all of creation, the 6, which all creation is a result of the 6 midas. They're the 6 Sheshes Yemei HaBinyan. They're the 6 days of building. Each midah, Chesed, creates Sunday, and Gevura, Monday, which is why Monday is a tough day. Always has been. It's a day of division, Gevura. And Tuesday is Tiferes, as explained in Kabbalah and Chassidus. So, the 6 days of the week reveal the Tainug. As we said yesterday, what it means to translate this in simple terms. So when a person is suffused with the objective, why am I working? I'm working in order to share myself with my wife and children. That's what Shabbos is all about. So then if he's suffused consciously with that, then there's this tainug already in the work. Because it's all, every dollar, everything he's doing, it's all for this moment of connection. So the 6 days, then the work doesn't become something separate, its own life, its own world. The whole work is sublimated. All of his avodah is sublimated to this one essential truth, the relationship with God, and by extension, his wife and children, and by broad extension, community. Yes, it's all about relationships. That's the whole purpose of it all. So that's the answer. The answer to what question? How is it that the 6 midas, each day the manna fell? How can the manna possibly be transferred to us, as it were? How does Tainug get to us through the 6 midas? The answer is because the 6 midas have been elevated to touch this Tainug, and therefore they can convey it. which means, again, the work doesn't become an end for itself. The pursuits are not an end for themselves. The pursuits transparently and patently and consciously are there only as an expression of our relationship with God, to serve that, to express it, and to be one with it. And that's continuing in the text. Where are we up to? Where are we up to? Who remembers? Well, I think the last time, Rabbi. Yeah, let's look 2 lines at the bottom of the page. I think you have the same as I do, page 182, I think you do. So 2 lines at the bottom of the page. Rabbi Shamidis Olim Lamaila. On Shabbos is the Aliyah. The midas ascend. Hashem takes us in and makes us privy to this great essential delight and oneness. Shabbos is a day of oneness. So on Shabbos, the man does not fall. Because what's Shabbos? Shabbos is the source of it all. The Tainuk. So we're saying that Shabbos is the source of what? Of Tainug, which the midas can now bring each day accordingly, each day of the week. We haven't answered the question why one day cannot lend or give or bestow to the other. We'll see that soon. But now he's addressing another question. Shabbos is not just the source of manna. All the ashpois come from Shabbos. Shakadosh Baruch Hu moedid kshomim matzmiach shoyim. Hashem makes the rain fall and grass grows. So there is this hashpah on Shabbos. There is this hashpah on Shabbos. The man is not falling, but there's other hashpahs. So what is that? We were just saying that the tainug itself cannot be drawn down because it's the pure tainug itself. This is the source. So how are we getting other hashpahs on this day? On Shabbos, grass grows and the rain falls. In the Yedua Shali of the Shabbos, we've encountered this, friends. The answer is that the Aliyah on Shabbos is not the external dimension of the world. That goes on. The external relationship. Therefore, the grass grows and the rain falls. But the Aliyah is bepnimius. So the manna won't fall because that's transparently pnimius, so it doesn't come down. But the other ashpois do because they're chitzonius. They in fact are provided on Shabbos because the aliyah of the world is only in a pneumistic way. The external construct continues unabated. So why doesn't the man come down? Because that's all about the tainug. And that's what creation is lifted to experience. Creation is lifted out of its own limitation to touch the tainug elyon. And therefore, the only thing that doesn't come on this day is the man. Everything else does because God's keeping the show going. He's keeping the world going. So he continues to create and things continue to grow, etc. But that's all chitzonius. That's not what he wants. But he wants his relationship with us. And where is that expressed? In the man, the tainug. So it doesn't come down. We touch it. We are lifted to it. That's why we don't do work on Shabbos. That's why all of these restrictions and laws, and the more detailed the laws, the more detailed we observe the laws, the more we are in this inner place, the more we transcend, the more we disengage the engagement, the pursuits, the system, the world per se, and touch the kavanah of it all, the point of it all. These laws are not here to restrict us, but to lift us out of the morass of the pursuit of existence. But the man doesn't come down therefore. So the man is pnimius, the kavanah pnimius. It doesn't come down because on this day we are touching this pnimius. So when does it come down? It now is able to come down in the 6 days of the week. This is not unlike I mentioned this yesterday, Havdalah, that the wine spills over into the cup below to take the tainig of Shabbos, that deep serenity, that deep connection. It's all about the relationship. And there's nothing else. We bring that into our weekday pursuits. So it happens, it is drawn down on the 6 days. Once the midas have ascended, once we've touched this deep truth, this Meidnei Lam Haba, now bring that down. Make the world Mashiach, live. This is what this is saying. Mashiach is when this is realized, the Tainug, the great Shabbos, the great delight, the oneness with Hashem in the deepest way. Bring that now down into every moment of life. More detail there. Now we're going to answer the question. It's a whole arichasi before he gets to answer the question. So let's look. On the end of this ice, the answer comes. And as I said yesterday, the understanding of the answer, why? Let's read. That the manna fell each day on its own. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, all the 6 days of creation. So the manna comes down, and there can't be any left over, and there's no integration, granting, even loaning, none of it. Everybody got their own measure of omer. You don't give to somebody else, you don't take from them. This sounds like a negative thing. We shall see that it's a profoundly positive thing. It's all rooted in etzem versus giluyim, essence in contrast to projection and manifestation. We spoke about yesterday, but let's see inside the Maimer at the end. The end, it doesn't really explain it, it just lays the law down. So why is it every single day? So it begins now the explanation. We said the manna is the incarnate invested in it. Is the pnimius v'atzmos oinig ha'elyon. The inner essential delight. Again, what's that? That's God's chosen delight to delight in us. That's the dira. The point of your home is to share yourself with your soulmates, your wife and children. That's the pnimius v'atzmos oinig ha'elyon. The hainu shebechinas atzmos oinig ha'elyon atzmoi. So what's the point of the manna coming down? It means that this tainug yored uba bashba saman lamata. It comes down in the physical manna here on earth. Nevagam shebam shachase lamata. Well, it's not the same as it is in its source. Pchinas pnimi oinug ha'elyon mamish, which is an oinug atzmi bilti murgish. Now, friends, you would have encountered this. Let me translate these words. What is that level above? It's an essential tainug which is not felt. Sounds familiar? Well, you spoke about it in your chasana maimer. Just before you went to the badekenish as achona for the chuppah, as achona for the yichud which followed. That's the maimer you spoke about. The Lachadoidi, and there he speaks about these 2 levels of tainug. You remember? Tainug atzmi bilti murgish and the tainug which is murgish. What does this mean? In translation, a tainug that is not felt, a tainug that is felt. The difference is, in tainug itself, essential or more external. In other words, the essentially deep tainug, my friends, is so deep and engages us so essentially that we do not consider it. Meaning, by that I mean, there's no part outside of us that is saying, wow, I'm having a good time. That's what consider means. Consider means something is considering something else. when it's really deep tainug, it pervades your being completely, and it's not like it's beyond even, wow, this is wonderful, having such a great time. If you're saying that, then there's a part outside of the experience that is considering it and saying, wow, this is wonderful. That's a tainug murgish. It's a tainug, but you are conscious of it. You're considering it, and you're aware of it. The deepest tainug is so deep that you're not even aware that you have tainug. You're one with it. There's no it, in other words. There's no something else. It's quite the paradox, isn't it? That the deepest tainug transcends self-awareness. Because self-awareness means that there's something outside of the experience that is aware of it and considering it. So a true tainug is bilti murgish. The best example, not the best example, but an example for that is, friends, the pleasure to be alive. And that's so essential. You don't think about that and consider it. Wow, I'm alive. Too deep, pervades everything. In fact, we don't even think about being alive unless our life is threatened. Then we start thinking about our mortality in our life. But the pleasure to be alive, a healthy human being, this is where self-esteem is rooted. The true self-esteem is the delight to exist, to be alive, the deepest pleasure. Again, so deep that we don't even define it, consider it, or even think about it. So that is the shoydish. So true that Rabbi is saying here now, Vagam again. The way the manna comes down through ishtalshalis and ends up as this manna, the physical manna that they ate and delighted in. It's not like the true atzmitike tainug l'mayla. Mikol moker marizam shachas einika atzmi. It still is tainug. Shigam, I'm sorry. Yes, Shagam Moishe Murgish, even though it's come down in a way that it doesn't pervade us completely, and therefore we consider it. Pasha Begashmish, they ate the manna and the taste of whatever they wanted it to taste like, and they delighted in that. But that's something that you think about or aware of and are saying, wow, while it's happening. It's a tainug murgish. So he's saying a taka comes down as a tainug murgish, but eina mishtana be'etzem ahusay. The essence of the tainug invested in the manna is this deep tainug atzmi that the Eibishter has with us and us in him. Let's read a little bit further. Ki yadua ha'hefesh ben hamshachas ha'atzmi l'hamshachas ha'ara. This is what we said yesterday. So all of this is rooted in the difference between essence and manifestation. When essence is drawn to essence, etzem bilti mishtana. Fundamentally, at the core, it doesn't change. Its outward dressing might alter, but essentially, it remains the same. Someone who is an atzmi, put this person in any condition, no matter what. So there'll be external changes in different environments that he lives in, but he fundamentally will not change and cannot change and doesn't change. Someone, there's three levels, atzmi, pnimi, and chitzoni. A chitzoni person completely adapts to the environment, everything changes about their whole persona. Pnimi somewhat straddles the two worlds. Change will happen much slower, and change is possible, and he can become adapted and become, part of this new society, this new culture. But the atzmi, although he engages in the world around him, an atzmi will retain his identity under every and all circumstances. So that's what we're saying here, that even though the manna as it manifests as a tainug murgish, But since it's in of tainug, in essence, it's rooted in the tainug atzmi, the essential deepest delight that pervades and leaves no room for anything else, which is God's delight in us. His whole essence is invested in that. That's the root of it, and that is carried through in the manna. As opposed to ha'orah, revelation is always subject to change and constantly changes. Hishtalshalus is oir, and there's atzilus, and then there's bria, and there's tzimtzum. There's all kinds of tremendous changes, and there's different spheres, and they're contrasting. There's chesed, there's gvura, there's higher, there's lower. Holy Hishtalshalus is this constant change. That's what it is. Ilav olul, this whole chain effect. That's the term, chain effect. Not chain effect. What's the term for ilav olul? Cause and effect. Chain reaction. It's a whole chain reaction of one thing evolving and devolving into something else. To frame this in the language we spoke about today and yesterday, anything outside of etzem, rots, and say, it's constantly changing. The wills are constantly changing according to the changing circumstances, constantly. Your seichel v'shor is constantly changing. As you mature and entertain things and grow, the oir is always in a state of flux and change, and is responds to the circumstances and changes accordingly. What you wanted as a child is not what you want when you grow up. On one given day, the will changes depending on the circumstance. It's all negotiation. Negotiation is all about change and adaptation. That's oir. Oir means the way we negotiate the world. Negotiation, by definition, is change. That's the point of it. But there's the etzem of the person. That's not subject to change. So when etzem is revealed, when the issue on the table, when what's being discussed and what is addressed and what is laid bare is the etzem, then there is the external adaptations, but the etzem, no real change. Can't be. Same person. To use that analogy. I'm using different models, friends. We need to train the mind. When it comes to Chassidus, that it's very elastic. It's very, maybe that's the right word, but it's all relative. It's all relative. All the mashalim we give, we shouldn't get stuck on a mashal. They're all relative. They bring out this aspect, another aspect. They manifest in endless ways. So I may be like flitting between mashalim, but I hope we're not getting, but you just said that, not a different mashal. The general idea is the same mashal. Let's continue in the text. Again, sham shoch, not again. Picking up from the word sham shocha, yeah, but he has the place. Sham shocha, she b'chinas ha'ara bilvad. Shocha, which is not the etzem, but only a projection, light, rotzen, seichel, etc. Hari mishtanes, it changes. The light undergoes change. Again, the agendas change. The levels change. The high nushanas mahus madrega acheres. One level gives way to another level. Chesed to gevura, gevura to tiferes, and so on. Atzilus to bria, bria to yitzira. That's exactly what hishtalshalus is. A devolving, descending light, chain reaction, cause and effect, one adaptation and another adaptation, another adaptation. So it changes. It now changes. It becomes, now the light now has become the lower level as it descends. It no longer has the properties of the higher level of light as it was in the previous state. That's when it comes to what? Giluyim, revelations, light projections. Or in other words, engagement. If it's all about engagement, And it's all about adaptation. But when we're talking about the etzem that's moving, the etzem is moving. In essence, it doesn't change. Essence is not subject to change. Even though externally it's not the same, here very radical change. We got physical mana. It's rooted in Gimel Reishin Datika. So it's a far cry externally, but not in essence. Not in essence. Did I miss a line here? It still remains its essential identity, the I, the being of it, unchanged. It gives interesting marshal even within our conscious midas, our conscious faculties. Let's see it. So we see this, for example, everything is relative again, even within the midas. So moichin, intellect's effect on midas. When what's being expressed is only a reflection of the moichin, which is the external level of moichin, the midas of seichel. We'll just say the words now, we'll try and explain it. And then what happens is there's real change. The intellect gives way to the emotion. It devolves into the emotion. Why? Because to begin with, what level of the intellect is being engaged here, is expressed here, is the emotional dimension of the intellect. God will explain this tomorrow. Just finish the line. But when the essence of intellect is expressed, and even though it will give rise to emotions, but those emotions remain not a new world unto themselves. The emotions retain the objectivity of intellect, their emotions governed and defined by seichel. They don't get a life of their own. Even as when the pnimius of seichel, again to explain tomorrow, engenders midas, not the chitzonius haseichel, but pnimius haseichel, then the moichin is present in the midas, unchanged, to be explained, God willing, tomorrow. Okay, so we'll address that tomorrow, Be'ezrat Hashem, with God's help.